Hello, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and I have a new friend with me today. And Lisa, can you tell us about who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Sure. So, first of all, Regina, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited to be here. I am a matrimonial attorney and a CDFA as well as a CFL, which a lot of initials there, but essentially my practice, which is approximately 25 attorneys, is based in New York, Manhattan, and also in Westchester County. And we focus our practice on matrimonial law. We also actually handle trusts and estates. And we are focused on issues of custody and orders of protection, as well as complex financial issues, such as equitable distribution, distribution of restricted stock units, child support issues, spousal support issues, and a lot of expert appraisals of business valuations. So we run the gamut, but we are really focused on the complexity of divorce. And I am also chair of a wonderful organization called Savvy Ladies, which is an organization, it's a 501c3, and is devoted to helping women by helping them gain financial empowerment through financial literacy, with a helpline that women can connect on free of charge with one-on-one financial professional advice. So I do a lot of other things, but those are certainly two of the things that I do.
Yeah, apparently you don't sleep because that's a lot.
No, there's very little sleeping involved here.
Oh my goodness, that is so much and so much to unravel. And obviously, we have to talk a lot about divorce because I do work in that area as well. But I'm impressed as an attorney, you dove even deeper into the divorce side to get the certified divorce financial analyst, and then we'll talk about the other designation too. But tell me a little bit about your journey on that, as to and why you chose to go down that path with it.
So divorce is really much more complicated, I think, than sometimes people understand, and the financial aspects of it can be complicated. There are certainly a lot of tax issues to consider, particularly when you are dividing up assets or dividing retirement accounts. And the certification actually helps you evaluate the settlement itself that you're putting together for people. So, for example, and I always use this example, you might have two IRAs, but one IRA is a Roth IRA and you've already paid the taxes, and one is not a Roth IRA and you haven't paid the taxes. And so it's not exactly apples to apples. Or you're looking at the marital home and you're thinking to yourself, well, I will trade the marital home for the IRA. And the IRA has taxes to pay, and the marital home may have capital gains taxes and other issues involved in it, and transfer taxes, for example. And so you really need to actually look at what you are dividing and make sure that you are, at the end of the day, getting your fair share of the equitable distribution of the assets. And that certification really lends itself to understanding what that division should look like based upon tax issues and other issues in terms of division.
In my head, I'm going, preach, preach. That's like exactly what I talk about. It's like literally down to some of the examples. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're mirror people. We're saying the same stuff. And I love it. I love it. Well, because I think most attorneys don't, when they go to law school, but they're not really big on the math side of things. So the fact that you have your CDFA on top of it makes a big difference, I think, for your clients, because you really get it. You understand that the numbers, even though they look the same on paper, are not.
That's 100% true. And I think sometimes people come to me for their settlements. Maybe they've actually tried to mediate their settlements. And I look at them and I say, these are very lopsided. This is not what you want to be doing. And there's not really an understanding of that necessarily, because they sat in mediation and maybe somebody didn't explain to them that they weren't dividing apples to apples, or they think I'm getting a lot of something, but they don't know what that something is, or even how it should be divided. And so it's not that I'm an expert in tax or that I'm an expert in, some of these other areas, but I also know how to spot the issues and then bring in the appropriate people that we can collaborate with so that we can actually make sure that somebody's agreement is correct.
Yes. Amen. Amen. And it is a big part of the divorce process. Figuring out, you have this big asset pool and you have to like separate it and figure out what goes best on each side of the equation or in to the two separate buckets, as I usually say. And some assets are worth more than others to one spouse versus the other. And I'm glad to see that you're really, really digging deep if you're thinking about those things. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's very important. And I always give the example, I guess in the last couple of years, we had one case where, frankly, if we wouldn't have dug deep, we would have missed millions and millions of dollars of assets because
Wow.
on the surface, there was a capital account and the capital account had a particular figure. And maybe my client could have accepted, a half of that capital account amount and walked away with cash, but she would have given up the bigger picture, which was a great fund that actually was making a lot of money. And as the divorce progressed and we were subpoenaing the documents, we were learning that this was really something lucrative for her. And she was not going to walk away without a piece of that fund. And so, it's that kind of work. And we did that, in coordination with forensic accountants who can really advise us and who were able to understand it. And so when I got on the phone and I said, I've got the subpoena documents and it looks like there was another 5 million that came in, right? And I still need somebody to say to me, no, Lisa, that you're not wrong. That's correct, right? So it's very important that I think not only that you have the credentials, but that you work with really good professionals who can advise you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just reminded me of a time recently, a couple months ago, I was helping a client, and this is why you work with a professional like Lisa, right? Or myself, or another divorce professional when you're going through this. This is not something you want to mess up because once it's done and the agreement is signed, you can't go back, right? There's no going back for adjustments unless there's fraud, but you have to get it right the first time. So a client of mine and I were calling, I will not say the company name, but it's a big financial institution. And she had her own account there, but she, according to the document, also was entitled to, a percentage of the husband's retirement account as well. So we call there and they're like, yeah, no, there's no assets. No, just hers. And if I hadn't been on the phone with her to speak their language, she would have missed out on $1 million. Just poof, gone because they couldn't find it. They didn't know where to look. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's why clients need to work with somebody like yourself with those credentials because you'll find stuff like that. You go the extra mile.
I think that's really true. I think that we try to make sure that we have left no stone unturned. Now, look, I'm not going to necessarily catch every single asset because
No.
there could be assets overseas that we don't get, or there could be cash sitting in some vault someplace, right? I can't tell somebody that I am going to find everything. When somebody is intent on being devious, then it's likely they're going to get something by. It is just
Yeah.
an almost an
Yeah.
impossibility when we're in that situation. But I think that we do a very good job of finding mostly everything, and as much as probably is possible to find.
Yeah. No, great, great work. Great work. What are some of the other, I guess, big areas where you find you add tremendous value to a divorce situation?
So, of course, issues of custody. I mean, we have a lot of experience in custody, and custody, is probably the most important thing that people come to us for, is dealing with, spouses or other parents who cannot co-parent or who really won't foster a relationship with another parent. And also, teaching our clients how to do that to some degree, right? Many people come to us and they're at the point where they really dislike the other parent, and they
Mm,
need to learn that that other parent is still a part of their child's life, and that they are going to need to be able to co-parent with this person for a very long time, because that is somebody who's going to be in their child's life for a very long time. And so, there are certainly areas where it's not appropriate that a parent necessarily have access or as much access. Maybe that there are alcohol or other addiction issues. Perhaps there are mental health issues. We deal with all of those types of cases. We will take a case, to settlement, but we will also take a case to trial if necessary. So, and we are very aware of the issues that the court is looking at and what the expectation is for a parent to be able to have custody of a child.
No, for sure, for sure. And I think, a lot of people forget in a marriage because you're surviving, right? You're surviving when when you're going through a divorce. But we forget that there's even, kids, littles all the way through adult children that are impacted by this and that they need attention to. And not just like, this weekend with me, the next weekend with the other person, but the emotional availability of the parent to that child, and not just they tell them they're having a divorce and then that's the end of the conversation. They need to touch base and touch on that conversation more than just a few times. I don't know if you have any parenting coaches in your area that you use. I have a fantastic parenting coach that I refer to, and I never would have thought of it but it's a big thing that can help our clients as well.
Without a doubt. I mean, we
Yeah.
do refer to therapists who are very helpful in guiding parents about how to co-parent. And certainly there are parent coordinators. I don't know if you use that term, but we have parent coordinators who work with both parties and try to reach resolutions. It's not always successful, but it's
Mhm.
certainly another avenue for people to try to work out their issues. So, we really work with people on those issues. And look, as people are going through their divorce, life happens too, right?
Mhm.
People get sick, people get ill, their children sometimes get ill or sick. So we are dealing with all of those things. Somebody loses a job, or a business needs to close, and maybe through no fault of someone, or maybe because somebody actually wanted to get a litigation advantage. So we've got to deal with all of those issues as well. It's
Mhm.
it is, as I said, I think life is complex and divorce is probably even more complex. And you are dealing with people who are going through the most stressful time of their lives. They are dealing with issues about their children and issues about their finances. And those are the things that are probably the two most important areas in someone's life.
Yeah. Yeah. And divorce is the second most, I guess, second hardest life transition that you could have. And it's ahead of losing a spouse, but of course behind losing a child. So it tells you how difficult it is, even if you have what you call a good divorce or an amicable divorce, it's tough, still tough.
It is, and it takes
Um,
time. It takes a lot of time. And I think that, if people can sit down at the table, obviously, and do that kitchen table divorce. I just saw an article on that a couple of months ago in the New York Times. If they can sit down and they can all work it out, that's great. And then that's going to be fast and done, right? But most times people cannot have that kitchen table divorce. They actually need to go through and make sure that they have covered all of the assets, that they understand what the issues are. And even in terms of custody, things unfold as I think
mhm.
people progress through their divorce.
Okay, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot can change. And depending on the length of the divorce, can mean a lot more can change, things like that. I have a few more questions for you, but I want to know, like, for people listening and they want to learn more about you and your practice, where would they find you?
So they could go to, I have a blog, which is lisazeiderman.com, and it'll give all the information of how to contact me. And it's just like the spelling of my name. And they could also actually email me at lz@mzw-law.com. I'm on LinkedIn, so they can find me through LinkedIn. They can call my office, which is a 914-455-1000. And so there's lots of different ways to find me.
Yeah, yeah. And you primarily practice in New York, correct?
I do. I practice in New York. I only practice in New York State, although I'm licensed in both Connecticut and New York State. But I actually practice in New York and New York County, Westchester County, Rockland County, Orange County, Kings County, Putnam County. So we do the gamut, actually.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. I don't know if it's the same there, but here in Pennsylvania, even county by county, the rules are different. Is that the same for you? I'm
Yes.
so like, oh my goodness.
So
Can
we
we
were
get
just
on
having
the
this.
same page?
Well, it's an interesting thing. We were just having this discussion yesterday at a matrimonial committee meeting in Westchester County. And someone said, can't all the rules for all the judges be uniform? And the answer is, it's never uniform for all the judges. You have to read the court part rules, and each
Mhm.
judge has their own, differences, right, in the court part rules, and you have to read them. That's part of being a lawyer. And
Mhm.
you have to make sure that you get those rules and you follow those rules. And although there might be some uniformity through both the counties and the state, and even in that county itself, there's going to be some differences, and you have to know
Yeah,
that those differences.
for sure, for sure. And that's one of my attorneys that I refer to whenever, not every time, but a lot of times when I'll ask him a question or my group will ask him a question, his answer is, it depends. It
Exactly.
depends.
It's the best answer of all, because it really does.
Yeah.
I was just with a potential client, and the client was saying, well, what's the outcome? And I said, well, this is the range of what could happen, right? And well, why wouldn't it just happen this way? I said, because you've told me certain things, and if history is the best predictor, then this is what I think would likely happen, right? But I don't know this for sure, and I think that nobody really can predict what their spouse or the other parent is going to do or think, or how they're going to act, because there are other people who come into the picture, right? And I come into the picture, right? I'm a lawyer, so I have my own view of things, and I might give certain advice and make certain changes in somebody's behavior or how they conduct themselves, and all of a sudden the story then changes, right? And so you can't have an inflexible expectation. I think you have to be prepared to be able to think on your feet at the time. And what I can say to that is so important is that people stay calm, that they act maturely, that they always act in the best interests of their children, that they are honest and forthcoming, that they don't hide or secrete assets, because all of those things will hurt them, certainly in a courtroom, even in a settlement, even in a negotiation, because it's going to be a loss of credibility or confidence that you might have in that other person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hate to get off the divorce topic because you and I think, could go for hours because it's so much information. But I do have to have you talk about your Savvy Ladies podcast because I think a lot of people would love to listen to that.
So before we got on, we were talking, and I am actually launching, along with Precious Williams, who is the pitch master, a Savvy podcast called The Power of the Ask. It is about women breaking that glass ceiling, about getting to the table and asking those important questions, and thereby allowing other women to ask those important questions, and other people. We have a whole host of great guests who are already starting to appear on our podcast. It will be launching probably in late February or March. And all of these women that we've interviewed so far are so inspirational, and have been really, their journeys are interesting. They talk about their journeys. Many of them come from different parts of the country and even world. And their backgrounds are really compelling. And what they have done in their lives is also so compelling to hear about. So I invite everybody to tune in to The Power of the Ask, the Savvy Ladies podcast, as soon as it launches. And I will, of course, let you know, Regina, when it does.
Oh, yeah. I want to follow that.
It
Well,
should be
I want to
great.
thank, yeah, it should be. Yeah, it should be. And actually, this may air right around the same time. So it would be a perfect timing
That's
for it.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Great.
do want to thank you so much for being on our show today. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm loving all that you're doing in New York, and I'm going to continue to follow your success.
Thank you so much, Regina. And I will do the same with yours.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you everyone else for joining us. And I think our call to action today should be, be prepared, look at the numbers, know what you're signing before you sign it, and using a professional like Lisa to help you with that if you're going through a divorce, obviously. Again, I'm Regina McCann Hess, Forge Wealth, and our website is forgewealth.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Forge Wealth, and LinkedIn, Regina McCann Hess. Have a great day.